love, sex, desire, drama, lovers, and the others. And we talk about it all here on Relationship Rhetoric. Greetings and welcome to Relationship Rhetoric. I'm your host, Unapologetically Angela, and on the show today, we have a powerful woman. I've met this woman in the community, but I've heard so much about her. So I did some digging, and I was able to find her to ask her to be a special guest on the show. Please welcome to the show, Pastor Karren Todd.
Thank you
better
so
known as
much.
Pastor Karren.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
I appreciate you. It always means so much to me, people that have such a busy schedule, and you have a busy schedule, to just take some time out and talk. So
Certainly. Well, you know, my godmother told me once, she said, it's the busy people that find time for you.
now you know what?
Because the people who are doing nothing want to continue to do nothing. So it's all it's always the busy people that will find time for you.
I'm going to take that with me. I like that. Okay, so let's start by just telling us who Karren Todd is.
Who is Karren Todd? Karren Todd is a mother, a daughter, a sister. That's my first line. So all the other things that I've been able to accomplish, all the other things that God has blessed me with, they never come before mother, daughter, sister. So before the Pastor Karren, I'm just this tall chick that grew up in Memphis. You know, grew up in South Memphis, which I love Memphis. I always had a heart for family, always had a heart for community. I am a graduate of Central High School. I only went there the last year. So I spent most of my time with Whitehaven. So when I go back to the reunions and everything, I go with Whitehaven High School, class of '86. Graduate of Christian Brothers University here in Memphis. Just graduated in May from Memphis Theological Seminary. So I love Memphis. I literally stayed in Memphis the entire time. But love family, love God, love community. And that's pretty much all of me. It's very, very simple. Okay. And I think people make it bigger than it is. And, you know, my friends do that sometimes. They're like, well, I don't want to talk to Pastor Karren. I want to talk to Karren. It's like, it's the same person. I'm always Karren.
Okay.
Always Karren.
So it's always interesting to me, what was going on in your life, or what was the point where you realized that you wanted to be a minister of the gospel, or you wanted to be a pastor? What was happening at that point?
Well, first, I never wanted to be.
Okay.
Never, ever in my long-legged life wanted to be a pastor. I have always been in church.
Okay.
My mom always had us in Sunday school, had us at 11 o'clock service, 3 o'clock program, 6 o'clock, everything. I've always been in church. I did what everybody else, not everybody, the majority of people do in my 20s. When I was able to make the decision, I began to go less and less. Mm-hmm. But that foundation was always there. And I remember I decided I needed to join another church. I wanted to join a bigger church. I really wanted to hide, but that's hindsight. But look, at that moment, I was like, I want to join a bigger church. I want to learn more, because I was always from a small Baptist church. And I felt that bigger church would tell me something more about Christ, something that would pull me in a little bit deeper, something that would really connect with me. And I joined Mississippi Boulevard. And it was amazing. I was there with Pastor Jackson, and it was absolutely amazing. And what I learned during that time was that I did go there to hide. In my mind, there was too much responsibility at the small Baptist church. Everybody knew when you weren't there. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew you weren't there on time to march in with the choir. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be free from that. But once I got my freedom, I realized freedom was not good for me. It was not. I needed accountability. I needed responsibility. And most of us do. But we think that when we go out on our own, when we get this freedom, life will be so much better. But you always need accountability. You always need something that grounds you. And as I was hiding, I didn't have anything that gave me that grounding. So I kept saying, I said, well, God, if you give me another chance, I need a small church. I need a church close to me. So I made this list of what I needed. because I was always late. And Mississippi Boulevard, I came late, then I wanted to leave early. So I needed to be closer to home. But in 2001, God answered my prayer with New Direction. We started New Direction, birthed from Mississippi Boulevard.
Okay.
And that was my another chance. And I've been down ever since. And sometime during our first maybe 3 or 4 years, I began to feel this tugging that there was still something more. And I remember I got sick and I was laying in the bed and I heard an audible voice. Sometimes people say I heard in my spirit. I literally heard an audible voice. I need you to tell my people that I have not forgotten about them. And I was like, okay. So when I got back to church doing little small Bible studies, I would always incorporate that, but it was still something more. And one day I finally stopped running and surrendered.
Okay.
And I think I preached my first sermon in 2005, I believe. I preached my first sermon in 2005.
Okay.
So I've been talking about God ever since.
Okay. So that leads me to so the counseling.
Yes.
You have a lot of different things in the avenue of counseling. The Coach Karren website, which is really nice. I checked it out myself.
Why, thank you.
I did. I was, yes, you must. Karren, give us the website.
It's www.coachkarren.com. And there are 2 R's in Karren.
I was just going to say, please, there are
2
2
R's in
R's.
Karren.
Yes.
Because if you put 1 R, you get somebody else I don't know. Yes, so coachkarren.com.
Okay.
So I started around 2015. Again, that pull, and I talk to people all the time about finding their purpose, and I need to find my purpose in life, and I have to tell them there are so many levels to this. The minute you think you have it, the minute you think this is it, this is the thing that I'm supposed to do, and God is like, oh, great, you're listening to me. Try this.
Right.
So it's always something else. So in 2015, I became a certified professional coach.
Okay.
And my hope is that I can help women to see more, do more, and be more. So that's what I want to do, and everything that I do centers around that. So I became a certified professional coach. Decided last year, I was senior associate pastor at New Direction Christian Church for 8 years. And last November, God said, okay, let's do something different again. And I remember standing in front of the congregation, myself and my pastor, talking about the fact that I was leaving and seeing the people's faces get long. And I just remember telling them that I have always taught you about faith and obedience. So through obedience, I'm going to jump. And by faith, I'm going to watch God work it out in the air. And God has been, for the past year, God has been working it out in the air. God has done some amazing things, just literally blowing my mind with the doors that he's opening, the people, the positioning, all of that is just coming by faith. Even the now in the doctoral program, I had no idea that that's something that I wanted to do. And I decided to finish. I was already in school. I said, I'll finish my Master of Divinity and then I'll be done. And maybe a month before I finished it, they came up with a new track for the Doctor of Ministry program.
Wow.
And because they had preaching and leadership, and I was like, I don't want a doctorate in preaching. I mean, nothing against it, but that's just not something that pulled me. A doctorate in pastoral counseling. I was like, really, God?
Right.
That's how you gonna do your girl.
Here
really,
we go.
God?
Here we go. Okay.
So that's where I am now. I'm in that program. So I've added pastoral counseling to the coaching.
Okay.
I thought I'd be able to say, if you want coaching, you check that box. If you want counseling, you check that box. It doesn't happen that way. Just however we flow in the session, when you're with me, whatever you need from me is what I give.
Okay.
If it's coaching, if it's counseling, if it's your big sister, like, listen, honey, that's not what we do. Whatever it is.
And so is your coaching or counseling specifically for women?
No,
No,
it's not. That's my area, that because you have to have an area of expertise.
Absolutely.
Or whatever. So that's the area that I push, that I promote. But no, I have some men that I talk to, especially with pastoral counseling, because one of the things that I say often is that God's word is not gender based.
Right.
Even though sometimes we look at it, we say it's gender biased. It's not really gender based. So if there is a place of pain, God's word touches that pain. God's word opens those places up so that you can expose them to God and allow the healing to take place. So it's not all women. I do counsel some men. Yes.
Okay. What made me ask that question is you made a post today about men and domestic violence. Mm-hmm. And that was very interesting because people very rarely discuss men being abused.
Right. And they think that if a male is experiencing violence, there's something wrong with him.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to make sure that that message got out there. The people that I know personally are the ones that would not strike back, would not hit back. And unfortunately, sometimes my sisters they've been in dysfunctional relationships. And if you don't hit me, you don't love me. And there's a passion in that violence that they're looking for, unfortunately. So they get to this next relationship, and this is the one they prayed for, and this is the one that's good to you, and you're trying to get that reaction. And they're trying to provoke, and there are, thank God, some men that won't allow themselves to be provoked. And so they unfortunately experience this type of intimate partner violence, and where they're just trying to hold her until she calms down. You know, so we don't think that men experience that, and they do.
Wow,
and
that was powerful for me just to. That's a break, because again, if a brother steps out about that, they're viewed as weak or what's wrong with him, and wow. So when you have your counseling sessions, and this may be a little personal question, are there or have there been issues in personal relationships that you have to pull from to be able to help other people?
Yes, absolutely. Especially with divorce. When we talk about divorce, when we talk about grief counseling, I have, unfortunately for me, but God uses it fortunately for others, I've experienced a lot of death in my years. I was a senior in high school when my great-great-grandmother passed. So I experienced that. So it wasn't like I was 3 years old.
Right.
So my family lived a long time. So I was a good and grown when people began to leave. So I had to learn to deal with that. My mom did a great job in helping us, but I had to learn to deal with that grief. Then, unfortunately, my sister passed in 97. We were 4 years apart. So dealing with that grief, the very next year, I lost my daughter in 98. So I've had a lot of grief to work through. So because of that, I get to pull from those places. And I've healed from that. And I get to walk with other people as they heal. So absolutely. I think that that's why we have experiences. Not necessarily. Everything that I've gone through is not for Karen.
Absolutely.
It's for whoever I need to help.
Absolutely.
So whether it's grief, whether it's divorce recovery, I've had 2 divorces. So people remember one. But before Pastor Karren, there was a divorce there. So I've had 2 divorces, and to walk through those and to understand those stages of grief and how they marry with grief. Because when you get divorced, and people don't realize this, when you get divorced, you lose something. And they're so sometimes angry that I didn't lose anything. This is the best thing that happened. No, you lost what you thought your expectation of marriage. You thought you were going to grow old together. You thought you were going to raise kids together. You're going to have the big house with the white picket fence, and you lost that future. And you have to grieve that future. So it's not necessarily about grieving that person, but you have to grieve what you lost. So when you go through those stages of grief, you come out better on the other side. And sometimes we don't come out better. We come out bitter, and we take that baggage into the next relationship. And then that relationship doesn't work. And we don't understand why they aren't working, because you never stop to get whole. You never stop. And I had to learn how to do that. I may be talking too much. As a young, in my 20s and late in high school, the friends that I had, they taught me, my mother didn't teach me this, my friends taught me that to get over a man, you need to get under another one. So that's what I learned. And I thought that was good for me. So after that first divorce, I went right into another relationship. And I was not prepared for another relationship. I'm blessed that God healed me during that time. But I was not ready for another relationship, because mentally I thought I was getting over the first relationship, but I was doing what they call stuffing.
Yeah.
And you just kind of stuff your emotions, and you fake it until you make it, and we never make it. We never make it.
So with all that information, you just did a divorce workshop?
I did.
Okay.
It was called Making Lemonade from Life's Lemons. Making lemonade from life's lemons. So I had some people in that workshop that had been divorced for years. I had one young man who had been divorced for a year. And I had another gentleman that was going through the divorce. And I could look at them and see the stages of grief. Nobody was in denial in that moment, but there was some anger. There was definitely some anger. The young man that was going through it right then, as he was talking, as I was talking, he was crying. And he was angry because he was crying. Because I'm not supposed, why am I sitting here with all these people crying, you know? So he was angry because he was crying. So he has a lot of work to do. And we go through those stages, same stages of death, same stages of when you're grieving death, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. But they add one, which is forgiveness. And once you get to that place, of forgiveness, that's an awesome place to be, where you can forgive the actions of that person, and not only forgive them, but to forgive yourself.
Absolutely.
And sometimes we think, well, if I forgive them, that means they get away with it. They think I condone it. That's not what forgiveness is about. Forgiveness is about freeing yourself. It's about freeing yourself. And we are not free from those moments, from that pain and from that hurt, until we arm ourselves with forgiveness.
Absolutely. I mean, great advice, because I just remember going through my divorce and having the conversations with my family members about mourning my relationship. And they were like, you're talking about like it's a death. I said, but I gave time.
Yeah.
I had expectations. So
Absolutely.
I'm feeling some kind of way right now.
And I feel like you took that from me. And and now I got to start over?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
yes.
You promised.
Absolutely.
You promised. And
Absolutely.
then you didn't come through on the promise. And so now I have to either decide that I don't want that promise anymore, or I have to start over and try to develop that promise with somebody else. That's a grieving process.
Absolutely.
Because you've invested your whole self. Your whole self.
Absolutely. Okay, so you also have a wonderful devotional.
Yes, I do.
So tell us about it.
She said now wishing she had brought it in the room. But that's okay.
Me too, my sister. Wonderland, you have the book.
I have a devotional. It's called Power Walk, a 40-day journey to power. The way that journal came about, in 2012, my mom passed. And as I said, I've dealt with a lot of death. So I knew the way to walk back to my wholeness. And what I decided to do was to begin to be very intentional about my devotional time in the morning. As a student, as a seminarian, and as a preacher, sometimes you can get so busy that you aren't doing your devotions for yourself. That when I open the Bible, I'm studying to preach, or I'm studying to teach, or I'm studying for a class. So you can actually get caught up in the business of teaching others that you don't feed yourself. So in those moments, I said, I need to be intentional about getting back into God's word so that it feeds and fuels me. So I did that for, about 6 to 8 months. And I walked my way back to wholeness. And I think maybe a year after that, I was looking at the devotionals. Because what I would do is I would put a little blurb on Facebook once I finished something that stood out to me. I may put it on Facebook and put whatever text I was reading. And people began to depend on it. And they were like, hey, you haven't done devotion yet. I'm like, wait now. This is not about you.
Right.
It's about me.
Right.
But when I went back and looked at it, I was like, this is some good stuff. And remembering the likes and the testimonies and the inboxes that I would get based on those 3 or 4 sentences that I would have posted on Facebook. So I went back and I picked my favorite 40. I lengthened some, tweaked a little bit, and each day in the devotional is laid out the wisdom, the word, and the work. So the wisdom is whatever revelation that I got as I was reading the text. The word, of course, is the scripture. And then I added the work, because I understand that our transformation, whether male or female, our transformation happens in the work. It does not happen in the wisdom. when we go to church and we hear that wisdom from the pulpit and we say that changed my life, your life changed in the work. When you begin to actually do things with God's word. So the work may be a question I ask, a challenge that I give, an assignment or something like that. So it's the wisdom, the word, and the work. So I'm getting some great feedback on it. So I'm glad about it.
It is real. And when I picked it up by accident in my sister's car, and I was like, oh my God, there she is again. And I flipped through it, and it was so interesting because that's one of the reasons why I started the show.
Okay.
You know, always so caught up in my relationship and crying and going through all this. I said, I would love to just do something to walk myself through my own healing process. Amazing. So to hear that, I was like, oh yeah, I need to find her. Let me go.
Here I am.
And I'm truly, truly grateful. So last thing, and I know that it's easy to tell that you are God-led. You know, in what you say, what you do. I mean, it is because even in your humor, you know, there's always a presence about you. So I totally appreciate that. So what goals, or if you have any, just for Karren for the next 5 years?
You know, if you had asked, this is the God's honest truth, because I could make up something and sound really, really brilliant. I'm not going to do it. Last year, if you had asked me that question, I could have laid it out for you. But since God moved me from that senior associate pastor position, I've just been it's almost like, you know, I want God to order my steps. I realize that I don't know if I've really been living by faith until last year, because now I'm trying to be so zoned in on what God is doing. I'm like, listen, God, when you move your foot, I'll put my foot there. I'm just really trying to be be in alignment, because I have no idea what God wants to do next. But I'm here for it. You know what I mean? I'm good with it. Whatever, hey, we're gonna ride with it, God. Whatever you want me to do, I'm with you. But so last year I would have told you, finish school, open a practice. I would have had a long laundry list. When I left the ministry, I didn't really leave the ministry. When I stepped down from the position, because I'm still a member of the church. When I stepped down from the position, I didn't know. And since that time, I have finished school. I didn't even think I could finish by May. But I buckled down. I finished school. I'm now in this doctorate program. I have a coaching. I have like a place, a building that I can walk in and go into an office area and talk to people. So I had no idea. I've gained clients, different companies that want me to help them coach their employees. Just stuff that I would not have been able to imagine. So I think, and I'm not excusing the question, but I think if I stated what I wanted to do in the next 5 years, I would put God in a box. And I'm so beyond the comfort zone right now. And God shows up outside of the comfort zone. God shows up in uncharted territory. Absolutely. And that's where I'm walking right now. Absolutely. And sometimes it can be so very uncomfortable because I'm the control person. And you know, you think I'm not a control freak anymore. I've got it under control. No, how do you get control under control? You know what I mean? You're still operating in control. So I'm in this place where I'm trying not to control it. And even more than that, just for my sisters, because this is something that we do. When we work on control, we have so many layers, like an onion, and we have so many layers. When we work on control, what I found, especially with me, and now I see it in other people, is that I released control, but I held on to manipulation. So instead of me in relationships, trying to control the situation, I released control, but I was smart enough to manipulate the situation, so the smartest answer he could ever come up with was what I wanted anyway. So we have to be careful of that when we're working on control, that we don't fall into manipulation. Because I don't want to control the relationship, but I just really think that we should do this. Don't you think that would be the best? Because if we do this, I think it leads there. What do you? I've walked him down this path to my answer. So we have to be careful with that. That was free. Oh, just take it. That was free.
I love it. Okay, so before we close, I want you to give the website again for Coach Karren. Tell us where we can find the book. And where do we expect to see you next?
Okay. So www.coachkarren.com. That's the website. If you can't remember that, KarrenTodd.com. KarrenTodd.com. The book is in both places.
Okay.
We have, I have the wonderful opportunity to preach at different places coming up. So there is actually an events tab. So whether you go to Karren Todd or Coach Karren, at the top in the header, there's an events tab.
Okay.
You click events, it'll tell you everywhere that I'm going to be. A major event that we're about to do is called Project Stand.
Yes.
And that's an event with myself and my family. In 2014, there was, I want to say 3 or 4 homicides related to domestic violence within a 30-day period. And I got tired of tweeting and posting my emotion about what was happening. And I was like, there's something more that we should do. So we came up with this event, this gala called Project Stand. And domestic violence is not my story. So I wanted to share this moment, this platform. I realized that God has gifted me with influence. So I wanted to use this influence to help those who could not stand. So I didn't reinvent the wheel and try to come up with this gigantic shelter and this campaign and program for women. We raise awareness and we raise resources.
Absolutely.
And we take the resources and we give them to the people who are on the ground.
Absolutely.
People there was no need to reinvent the wheel. There are people doing amazing things with domestic violence, and we give to them to help them continue to do it. So that's October 22nd.
Okay.
At 4 p.m. at Esplanade.
Okay.
In Cordova.
Yes.
So it's at 4 p.m. October 22nd. You can get tickets, donations. If you go to KarrenTodd.com,
All that information.
there's a link, right? Because there's another website, but I don't want to give you 3,000
Understood.
websites.
So KarrenTodd.com.
KarrenTodd.
2 R's, 2 D's.
2 R's, 2 D's. You'll find out everything about me except for my social security number, which wouldn't help you at all. Wouldn't help you at all right now.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having
Fresh
me.
off the road from Nashville.
Yes, it's okay.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for
Thank
being
you for
with
having me. Thank you so much.
Our notion for today is God gave you your mountains not just for you, but to show others that they can be moved.
Yes.
This has been Relationship Rhetoric. I'm your host, unapologetically Angela. Peace, love, and enlightenment. Love, sex, desire, drama, lovers, and the others. And we talk about it all here on Relationship Rhetoric.